Welcome and or welcome back to my channel. I'm Hannah Blackwell and today we're going to be talking about my winter TBR. I'm really excited for this video because I have been seeing a lot of people doing their 10 before the end and also some like winter TBRs, and I kind of wanted to put the two together just because this video is coming out a little bit later. Today's the 21st, so yeah, there's just a week and a half left to the month. Then it's just December. So I didn't want to do the end of the year TBR. There's just not enough time and it would be repetitive than if I did my December TBR. But I do have a lot of books I really want to read over the next 3 months. So I thought it'd be perfect if I just do my winter TBR, and that can include some books I want to read before the end of the year, but then also some books that maybe I want to read in December as well. I've got a lot of books here. A lot of them are wintry, or others are ones that I just really want to fit in before the end of 2024. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I'd love for you to do so. All of my social media is linked down below in the description, including my Goodreads Instagram, my Patreon, and the link to the Hideaway Discord. I'd love to hear from you what books you want to really get to before the end of the year. If there's just one book that you have to read before we hit 2025, let me know down below in the comments. All that out of the way, let's get into this video. There are 20 or so books on this TBR. I don't know if I'm going to talk about all of them, but I'm going to talk about a good bit of them. First, let's talk about some books that I definitely want to read before the end of the year. So starting out, we have Between Despair and Hope. This is by Jess Weisskopf. This is the second book in, I don't know what the series is called, but the first book is Between Wrath and Mercy, and I love this one. It was about this heroine who was actually probably closer to my age. She had a teenage daughter who is pretty much the chosen one, and she's got her in hiding. She's married, and one day her daughter and her husband go missing, and she has to go to her ex-boyfriend, who is like the king, and have him help her find her husband and her daughter. So we have a second chance romance with that. Don't worry, there's no cheating in here, but it is so good. The heroine is plus size, the chemistry is amazing. What I really like is this whole series kind of flips the classic fantasy romance tropes on their head and does a lot of fun stuff with it. So I cannot wait to read the second book. It's been a little bit since I read the first one. I think I remember it pretty well though. Hopefully well enough to just continue on without having to do a reread. If anything, I'll probably just find like a recap or something like that. I think there's actually 3 books out so far in that series. The 4th one is still yet to be released. Next I have Iron Flame. This is the second book in Rebecca Yarros's, is it the Imperium series? So the first one was Fourth Wing. I did DNF this book, but I want to continue on. It was more of a soft DNF. I wasn't really like obsessed with it, but I also wasn't like hating it. I needed a break. But I'm really looking forward to finding out like what happens next, and I did really like Fourth Wing a lot. Like I gave it 5 stars. It wasn't like an all-time favorite 5 stars, but it was like 5 stars fully for like enjoyment. It was just an enjoyable, fun time, and I'm hoping to get back there again with Iron Flame. This is about dragon riders. We have a dragon rider academy. Our heroine is physically disabled. She has a disability where she is, I think it's like her joints are kind of like more weak. It's about this really deadly dragon rider academy. The romance is an enemies to lovers. We have a Shadow Daddy vibes. I'm sure that if you know anything about fantasy romance or you've read any fantasy romance, I'm sure you guys have already heard of the series, so I don't want to do like too much of a synopsis. Okay, next we have Gold by Raven Kennedy. This one was on my November TBR. I think I'm literally picking this up today. We will see. But this is the 5th book in the Plated Prisoner series by Raven Kennedy. I did put this one down and I need to pick it back up because the final book in the series, book number 6, is now out and I want to find out what happens at the end of the series. The original book in the series is called Guild, and this is a King Midas retelling. Orin has been gold touched by King Midas and she is his pet. She's kept in a gilded cage and she's mistreated. She's kind of has given up on life. She goes through so much character growth with this series. It's one of my favorite things about the series. And I can't wait to see what happens with her because she is one of my favorite characters of all time. Honestly, I love her so much. Okay, next is a book that I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue on with this series, but really giving it some thought recently, I did really enjoy the first 2 books. So why wouldn't I continue on? I think I was just so heartbroken by the end of the second book in this series. I thought it was going to be so difficult, but I do really want to continue. And this is Deadly Dreams by KJ Sutton. This is the 3rd book in the Fortuna Sworn series. This is a dark fantasy romance series, and our heroine is a nightmare. So she can see and then control people's nightmares. She's looking for her brother, and the king of the Unseelie Fae comes and bargains with her for her to become his bride, and then he will in turn help her find her brother. The Fae in here are so cool. It's like straight underground, like you go underground to enter the Unseelie court. So it really has a lot of inspiration from Fae lore, and I really love it. I love how the Fae are portrayed, how it's very like naturey and underground caves kind of thing, and they're very trickster, and it's very dark and full of mystery. It's just an interesting world that KJ Sutton has created with this series, and I do really want to continue on. The end of the second book, though, in this series like broke me, and I'm pretty sure it's the third one is supposed to break me too. I'm a little bit concerned. Okay, so those are some series that I really wanted to continue on before the end of the year. Next are a couple of series that I want to start for the end of the year. We have Metal Slinger by Rachel Schneider. This has been all over YouTube, all over Instagram, all over TikTok. Not really on TikTok, but I know it's been all over TikTok. I really want to get on the bandwagon and read this. I hear it's so good. I don't know much about it though. I just know that everyone's been talking about it. I think I tried to look up the synopsis and I was kind of confused by it. I think it's political. I think there's a rebellion, and that's really all I know. Next is A Fate Inked in Blood by Daniel L. Jensen. I do have this book out from the library right now, and this is a Norse-inspired fantasy romance. This is traditionally published, and I think the sequel is coming out in 2025, so I really need to get to this so that I can read the sequel when it comes out. I've heard really good things about this one. I think that it's actually a romance between the heroine and her stepson, which is kind of taboo. She has some kind of secret power, like a drop of God's blood or something like that, and she has to like fight the stepson, but then they somehow develop a relationship. I'm not quite sure. A little bit enemies to lovers, but at the same time, this like taboo kind of relationship. So it sounds like there's some interesting tropes at play here, and I really like anything that's Norse inspired. That one I'm really excited about. And then there's two Why Choose series that I do want to start before the end of the year. I have talked about these recently on my Why Choose TBR video. The first one is Fractured Fates by Hannah Hayes. This is a Why Choose series that takes place at an academy. It definitely gave me Zodiac Academy vibes, but the heroine has a pet pig apparently, and that just kind of hooked me, and I'm like, okay, so we're talking Zodiac Academy, but Why Choose with a pet pig. I'm down. That's all I need to know. Like literally, that's it. I need to read it. And then we also have Bonded by Thorns. This is another fantasy romance Why Choose book. This is the first in a quartet. This is by Elizabeth Helen, and this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling with Fae. One day our heroine goes through like a portal through some brambles, and she finds out that her dad is being held hostage, and she like replaces herself for him, and she ends up being held hostage by these 4 Fae princes. I believe that each one of the princes represents a different season. Like there's like the Prince of the Spring, Prince of Fall, that kind of thing. I believe it's also poly, like not fully Why Choose. I'm excited about that one as well. I'm also very intrigued by Nectar of the Wicked by Ella Fields, because I've heard this one has a wintry setting, or maybe like a wintry Fae world. I've heard a lot of people talking about this recently. It has that really pretty cover that was it Fairyloot did, but I don't really know much about it, just that it's supposed to be really good and that it has like wintry vibes, and it's a Fae romance. And another one that I want to read because it does have the wintry vibes is Ember in the Snow, and this is a fantasy romance, but it's of vampires, and I've heard literally everyone who has read this has given it like a 4.5, 5 star. Like I don't think I've heard anyone say anything negative about this book. It's vampire romance, but with the fantasy romance vibes, and in a wintry, I think it's like a wintry setting, and I think it's enemies to lovers. Cover's gorgeous. I've seen multiple different covers for this, but like I said, picked out for the wintry setting. Okay, I have one cozy mystery that I do need to pick up. It was on my potential November TBR, and if not, then I'll definitely be reading it in December if I don't get to it by the end of this month. But this is Nancy Warren's Stockings and Spells. This is the 4th book in this series. It's the Vampire Knitting Society, and it's a cozy fantasy mystery set in England. Our heroine is taking over her grandmother's knitting shop because her grandmother has been turned into a vampire, and there's like this vampire knitting society. They like live in this tunnel system under the shop, and they come out at night and they have a knitting circle and they knit and they solve murders together. There's like this really cute cozy tea shop next door. It's so cozy. There's a love triangle and vampires, but then knitting. It's a super cozy series, and this is like the Christmas book, so I need to get to that one. Okay, the next one I have is a really cute, I don't know if it's like paranormal or fantasy romance, but it's called Snowed In with Sin. Our heroine is a pixie, and our hero is a polar bear shifter. But it's supposed to be cozy. It says an ex-besties to lovers cozy fantasy romance. Sounds so cute. The cover has lots of snowy vibes. It looks like these two ex-best friends, a polar bear shifter and a pixie, end up getting snowed in together at a cabin. Obviously love blossoms from there. I'm really excited for this one. Next, I have a newer release from Honey Phillips. This was her Christmassy release this year, and it's called Rudy. She has a lot of different Christmassy, wintry, alien romance books, and I have so many that I want to read. I've only read one of them so far, but this one is Rudy, so obviously like a Rudolph retelling. So it looks like the heroine has escaped Earth before its collapse, and she ends up going on a rescue mission with an alien named Rudy. He's got glowing skin and antlers. And suddenly things on Norpole are heating up. Oh my gosh. This sounds really cute. This sounds really exciting. I'm excited. So he's part of this tribe, and he's different from the rest of the tribe. It says, could this frosty planet be hiding a bit of holiday magic for both of them? Oh my goodness. I'm so excited. Honey Phillips writes the cutest freaking romances. I love her alien romance and her holiday stuff, especially like her holiday alien stuff. I'm excited. Next I found this series. I think it's like a Krampus world of some sort. Like there's Krampuses. And I think in each book, like the hero is a Krampus. And the first one is Kidnapped by the Krampus, and it's by Emily Shore. I found recently like the third or fourth book in this series had come out, and I saw it on KU, and then I had went back and I was like, well, I'll read the first one. I think this could be Captor Captive, possibly. The Krampus on the cover is huge and his horns are huge, and I'm very intrigued. I really like Krampus retellings for monster romance books for Christmas, so I'm very intrigued by that one. And then I have a pack for winter. This is another one that I talked about on my Why Choose TBR. This is by Eliana Lee. It's not come out yet. It's coming out in mid-December, and it's supposed to be a cozy verse, like a cozy fantasy romance, or maybe like a cozy paranormal romance Omegaverse. So Why Choose Omegaverse in a cozy town with a wintry setting? Sign me up. And then some more like wintry kind of books that I have here that are perfect for winter and the holidays. I've got Layla Faye's Wed to Jack Frost. I've read two from this whole series of the Wed to, and Jack Frost, like I have to read that one, obviously. I love the big, bulking, like hulky monsters for my monster romances, and this one, obviously you can tell by the cover, he's a giant. He's a big dude, a big Jack Frost, and I'm excited for this. I've liked this series so far. And then I have One Hell of a Yule, and this is like a witchy Yuletide, like a Yule holiday fantasy romance, witchy fantasy romance. And I don't know anything about it much other than that. It does sound very cute though. And then another, this is like a very short, like I think this is only 20 pages or something. It's like a short story, and it's called Dash Away. This is the cover, obviously a large reindeer type monster, and it's like a spicy erotic. That, yeah. Oh my gosh. And then another Krampus one. This is another book by Layla Faye, but this is Krampus and the Crone, and I think the heroine is a witch in this, and the hero is Krampus. And it's a romance between the two of them. I believe it's a novella. And did I say Layla Faye? I meant Honey Phillips. I'm sorry. But yeah, another like cozy, spicy, fun, wintry, holiday-themed, alien-ish or paranormal-ish romance. I think it's like a witch, but it is on a different planet. And so she really likes to mix kind of like the genres together. I really like the cover for this, like this whole series. I think they have a different author for different books in this series, and they're all really cool. and I'm excited about that one. So there you have it. Those are both like my 10 before the end and my wintry TBR books that I really want to read this winter. Some are fun, short, spicy fantasy romance novellas. Some are long, chunking fantasy and fantasy romance books that I really want to continue on in this series. So I've kind of tried to like keep things like in a nice mesh where I have some like short, quick, fun things to read in between like the longer books, and hopefully that works out for me. So far I've done really well for my November TBR. I've read 4 of my 6 TBR jar polls, and it's only the 21st of November. So I'm feeling very, very good about that. Hopefully I can keep up with keeping up with my TBR. But yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a like and subscribe if you haven't already. All of my social media is linked down below, including my Instagram, my Patreon, my Goodreads, and the link to the Hideaway Discord. Until next time, fellow readers, keep reading and living your best life.
Guess you're trying to stay strong and fake a smile until I look away. But I've known you too long, it hurts to